A long-awaited bill to give private renters stronger protections is back in Parliament today. Labour say the Renters' Rights Bill will transform rights for the 11 million private tenants in England. It would put an end to Section 21's so-called no-fault evictions, which mean that landlords can remove tenants for any reason with 2 months' notice. It would introduce Awab's law to private renting, which requires landlords to fix hazards that pose a danger to tenants' health with a strict time limit. The bill will also make it illegal for landlords to discriminate against people in receipt of benefits or those with children. And it would give tenants stronger rights to request to keep pets. Well, a lot of landlords have opposed the bill, arguing that it risks making access to rented housing harder. Well, joining me now is Twomey, the Chief Executive of Generation Rent. Ben, thanks so much for coming to talk to us. So how big a step is this for renters then?
This is a major step forward for renters. If it passes, we're still living in hope because we're only about halfway through this process in Parliament. But if the bill does pass, and they're saying it should do by summer, then we would see finally the end to Section 21 no-fault evictions. That means we can't be kicked out by our landlords at the drop of a hat with no reason given and need to be out the home within just 2 months. So that's a major milestone that would give a minimum level of protection for renters, which would probably empower us to raise complaints with our landlords, to be a bit more assertive about when landlords aren't delivering their responsibilities and making sure our homes are in good conditions.
Now, one of the criticisms of no-fault evictions is that it has increased the number of people who end up on the streets and are going through homelessness. So how big a problem is no-fault evictions when we look up and down the country?
Well, it's a leading cause of homelessness. If we look back 5 years, when the last government promised to end Section 21, we actually predicted that about 1 million people, almost 1 million people, were being moved through no fault of their own and forced to move out of their homes. So because it's a leading cause of homelessness, it's affecting lots of people, but it also means that we have this national scandal of 150,000 children growing up in temporary accommodation right now. That doesn't affect them just while they're in that homelessness situation. It's going to affect them probably for the rest of their lives. It interrupts their schooling. It can affect their entire outlook.
Now, no bill is perfect, so what are the gaps in this legislation?
The glaring gap is the fact that a lot of people right now, if you talk to any renter, their biggest concern is that they can't afford to pay their rent. We've seen enormous rent rises over recent years, particularly in the last 3 years. We're looking at £3,000 more for the same homes than we were paying 3 years ago. So that's an enormous cost to the renter. And whenever we see some sort of respite, so the cost of living crisis starting to end, whenever we see our wages improving, the landlords can just snatch away that income from us and take it in rent. So we need to find a way to limit the amount in which landlords can raise rents.
And in what other ways can we deal with this then? Because the unaffordability issue is something that affects so many renters, just as you've said, and that can't surely be the only way to tackle it. In what other ways do you think it can be dealt with?
It's never the only way. There's not just one way, otherwise someone would have done it, I think, already. But it is a vital part of that. So short term, you need to slam the brakes on soaring rents. But longer term, the government rightly has an ambition to build 1.5 million homes in the next 5 years. That's a big ambition. We've not seen that kind of level of building since 1977. So they do need to speed that up. But that will have a long-term effect. And it may slow the rate at which rents are increasing, but the rents right now are already unaffordable. So we need that breathing space with the government limiting rent rises.
Now, if this bill does go through, the worry that some have is that landlords will end up selling off their stock of homes. Therefore, there'll be fewer rental properties on the market for those who want and need to rent. And surely that can't be a good thing.
Well, when landlords sell their homes, that brick and mortar doesn't just fall into the ground. It's still available. Maybe it's available as a home that someone could buy as a first-time buyer, finally escaping renting, which is what many renters want to do. But the longer-term issue is how do we make sure that we are building enough homes for everyone? We need more homes, but we don't need more landlords. So for people who are being evicted because of sales, there needs to be better protection for tenants. Maybe it's the right of first refusal to buy that home if they have the savings and are lucky enough to be in a position to buy it. Maybe it's just making sure that we have the longest possible notice period and compensation from the landlord if they are going to evict us.
OK, Ben, thanks very much.
Thank you.